In the lead up to Thanksgiving and the prime sim racing buying time of the year, I am going to make a series of videos going over the products that I was most interested in reviewing for the year. And the first product that I'm going to review for this series is the Simsonn Plus X racing pedals. These pedals are kind of an enigma to me because on the surface in their listings, they look like really expensive, high quality pedals, but are being sold for a price that is cheaper than all of their competitors. So it makes me wonder, what's the catch? As always, the quick disclaimer that I am a typical sim racing customer, but not in the way that you might think. I am a budget sim racer. I race on a desk, always have, and you would think with my infinite YouTube money, I would build a rig right now. But no, I'm pretty comfortable the way I am, and because of that, I look for stuff that suits me as a sim racer. And I think there are a lot of people like me out there. And if you are not like that, I will still try to give you some guidance or some advice for if you're in that cockpit type of setup. But for me, I'm mostly looking at it from the lens of I am a frugal sim racer, maybe not a budget sim racer, but I am trying to maximize not only my budget, but the space that I have in my office. The Simsonn Plus X pedals are around $300 with the base plate, or just the pedals for around $270. My first impression was I was just slightly intimidated by this because I'm not the most handy person in the world, but it was extremely easy. About as easy as like IKEA furniture or something like that, and like easy IKEA furniture. It was just a couple placements of the pedals, tightening bolts, getting everything together, and honestly the confusing part only came when I was putting the haptic motors in, because I had not just the pedals sent to me by Simsonn, but 2 pedal haptic motors that are supposed to be for vibration. But we'll get to that later. So along with the pedals were a lot of options with them. So they were sent with different brake dampers, springs for the throttle pedal that you can make it softer. You can adjust the angle, the height of the pedals. Just about everything about these pedals is adjustable. And that is one of the selling points. So my previous pedals, just for comparison, were the Fanatec Clubsport V3s, which is still their flagship pedal, but I have been using them for around 3 years now. And the advantage for these Simsonn pedals in many ways is the adjustability, the flexibility, the customizability. That's going to be a big theme with these pedals because everything about these pedals is able to be tuned to your liking. So because I am on a desk setup with the pedals not particularly mounted to anything, in fact, I put it on a piece of foam so I don't tear up my carpet, which gives it even less grip, that means that I have to use a lot less force on my brake. So I soften my brake up so that I can get more travel out of it. But even then, even with me barely using any of the range of the brake pedal, it still feels completely precise when I use it. And that's one of the big things that I enjoy about these pedals is that they feel high quality, they feel precise. And the only downside was basically me having to put it together myself. The clutch pedal has a nice feel, though I do prefer that little bit more of a dump feel that you get in some other clutch pedals where you push on it, then it all gives away at once. This doesn't have that same feeling. It does feel more like a pedal that is more linear than that. There is a little bit of that feeling, but not as much as some others. The clutch pedal I don't care too much about, but if you're really into the feeling of that clutch pedal, just know that I'm not getting that dumping sensation. That's probably a poor choice of words, but you guys know what I mean. The Simsonn Plus X pedals do have a hydraulic throttle, though I would say out of the hydraulic pedals that I've tested, I've preferred the feeling of it being a little more squishy, which is kind of a weird thing to say, but it's the only way that I can put it in my head. Some of the throttle pedals had a really satisfying squishy feeling to it, where the Simsonn pedals, while you do feel an improvement over just a spring or some sort of contraption like that, it's not quite the same feeling that I have felt in pedals that are maybe twice its price that also have hydraulics. But besides the feeling, I would say the most important part of the pedals is the customizability. So in the Simsonn software, you are able to tune a lot. So my favorite thing that I like about this is able to adjust the curves of my pedals. Now, I have so much muscle memory and so much experience with other pedals that I'm so used to the linear thing, but I can totally see how making a curve on your pedal can be beneficial, especially with practice over time. If I could increase the range of my brake for between like 0 and 30%, then I can be a lot more better with my trail braking, a lot more precise, a lot more consistent. And sometimes you don't really need that 50 to 70% range in the brake where you could maybe shrink that down. In the throttle, you might have a curve to maybe allow you to be smoother getting on the throttle off a corner. Say that it takes you 50% to really get to 30% and 75% to get to 50%. That might help you be less harsh on the throttle getting back up without really changing up your movements. So I don't think they give you an advantage per se, but I could see them as almost like a crutch for your weaknesses that you can move around if you are just hopeless like I am in some situations. Now, one of the things that I have always said was super important in pedals is haptic motors, rumble motors, something that can give you that extra information when your tires are slipping. And that's what I like the most about my Fanatec Clubsports per se, but there are a lot of pedals out there that do the same. Simsonn does this by selling separate motors. So there's two types, there's the rumble motor and the linear motor. And I received the linear motor, not the rumble motor. And unfortunately, even with the higher end motor, I was not able to get the wheel slip setting working in iRacing. I was able to get some of their other settings working in iRacing to where I would get rumbles, but for something like a gear shift or engaging TC or ABS. But I really want it for me for when that car is on the edge of slipping, maybe when it starts slipping a little bit, then you get that vibration. iRacing is definitely capable of it because I was able to get it to work with other pedals, but for whatever reason, I just was having a hard time getting it to work with this. Maybe I would go back again and try the rumble motors, but for me personally, that is a deal breaker, just because of my level of comfort these days. Now, I did so much driving without the rumble motors earlier in my sim racing career, as you could call it, that I think that for a person who's not used to it, or maybe even for some people who are, it's not a deal breaker, and the fidelity of these pedals and the customizability of these pedals make up for it. But in theory, you should be able to get these rumble motors working with iRacing with the same degree as some of their other competitors. I just wasn't able to for whatever reason. So overall, who do I recommend these pedals to? So to be honest, I would recommend these pedals to anybody who's looking in a mid-range pedal setup. So on the top end, there are probably some competitors that do things like hydraulics, even the higher end Simsonns do that. Maybe some more advanced tinkering that you could do with some pedals that you can't really do in the Simsonn Manager. I'm not 100% educated even on what you can do on some of the $1,000, $2,000 pedals. I did try that active pedal, and the feeling of that was kind of unrivaled. So I could see if you have unlimited money why an active pedal would be better than these, but if you are going within the mid-range, I think that these pedals, I don't see a difference in my head with how these perform versus pedals that I've tried that were in the $400, $500, $600 range. I will say for a desk setup, these are by far the sturdiest pedals I've ever had. I've been able to put more force into the brake pedal than any other pedals that I've ever had, purely because of the weight, but also because of the construction of the base plate being very big and all that. In the market right now where any sort of load cell pedal runs you close to $200, I just don't see a reason not to jump up to these for the extra 100. I think that these pedals basically take all of the low-end load cell pedals out of the market, because personally to me, the difference between crappy bundle pedals and the load cell pedals are just about the same, if not less, than the difference between low-end load cell pedals and these pedals, especially considering the cost. I could see maybe if you really don't have it in your budget to go the extra $100 to stick with the load cell pedals, and you would be happy. But for the vast majority of people, I will say this is worth the step up from that. Now, is this worth it for everyone, even if you have an unlimited budget? I think that there are better options if you are willing to spend the money for it on the very high end, but I really think that these pedals cover the market in that low end to where you're buying pedals on their own for the first time, all the way up to outperforming or at least getting close to the performance of some mid-range pedals. And in this context, low-end pedals are like $150, $200, and mid-range is like $500, $600, and then high-end is like $800, $900 per pedal. That's where those active pedals are nowadays. But yeah, overall, these pedals are super fun. They're legit. I feel an actual high build quality in these that I wasn't expecting for the price point, and with the exception of my motors that were shipped separately with them not really working how I wanted it to, the pedals themselves are exactly what I wanted them to be. But let me know if any of you guys have tried these pedals before, if any of you own them. Do you have any tips? Do you have anything to add to my review? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day. Hope to see you all on the track.